The American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us, on we, the people, who seek a more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far, but we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain.
Today marks exactly 6 months since President Biden was sworn in as the country's 46th president, inheriting a politically divided nation just weeks after the deadly U.S. Capitol attack and a struggling economy amid a global pandemic. Joining us now, White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield. Kate, it's good to have you. A lot has been done by this administration. I think a lot of folks feel like there was finally a return to competency as it pertained to the coronavirus and as vaccines got out to the people. But I want to ask you a question that actually is dovetailing off of the interview I just did with Carol Lennick and Phil Rucker about their time with Donald Trump and the fervency of his following. And I'm connecting it to the obvious disinformation that is out there on social media. And I'm deeply concerned about this cult following, not cult-like, cult. And I wonder what the administration plans to do in areas where it actually can, as it pertains to these big tech companies and disinformation traveling through them to millions and millions of Americans.
Well, one thing I would point out, Mika, is President Trump himself has gotten vaccinated. He was one of the earliest, actually, to get the vaccine and has said so to his supporters. And that's great. But one thing we know is that the most important thing that people think about when they're making a determination about getting the vaccine, and I know you're raising a broader point here about misinformation, but one thing that people think about is what their friends, what their doctor, what the people they trust in their community have to say. So we're going to continue to supply information to encourage people to get the vaccine. What we're seeing is that right now this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. 99.5% of people who are in the hospital or who have died from this virus are unvaccinated. So President Biden's going to continue to make every effort to convince people to take the vaccine. With regard to social media and misinformation, he has raised. We all have a responsibility here. The social media companies have a responsibility. News outlets who are promoting misinformation using their airwaves to promote misinformation have a responsibility. He is going to call it out. He is going to continue to push. And we as an administration are going to continue to provide good, accurate information, particularly about the vaccine, to make sure people get this shot so we can put this pandemic behind us once and for all.
And Kate, definitely calling the shots and calling it out is important. But as a candidate, the president said he was open to getting rid of Section 230. And I'm just wondering if he's open to amending 230 when Facebook and Twitter and other social media outlets spread false information that cause Americans harm. Shouldn't they be held accountable in a real way? Shouldn't they be liable for publishing that information and then open to lawsuits?
Well, we're reviewing that, and certainly they should be held accountable. And I think you've heard the president speak very aggressively about this. He understands this is an important piece of the ecosystem. But it's also the other thing the president has pointed out and spoke to when he was asked about this yesterday is it is also the responsibility of the people creating the content. And again, I would go back to, there are conservative news outlets who are creating irresponsible content that's sharing misinformation about the virus that's getting shared on these platforms. So it is a big and complicated ecosystem, and everybody bears responsibility to ensure that we are not providing people with bad information about a vaccine that will save their lives. I mean, really, that's when we get right down to it. That's the issue. If the vaccine will save your life, you should get it. You should encourage your friends and family to get it. It's safe. You know, one of the pieces of misinformation that's out there is this idea that the vaccine was rushed through. It is actually based on decades of research. And now 300 million doses have been administered. So we're seeing in real time that it is safe and that it's protecting people. So President Biden is going to continue to make that case very forcefully.
Kate, let me ask you about that vaccine and that message. As you know, there are a bunch of people in this country who will tune out President Biden. Some of them don't even think he's president, as you know, and they're listening to their own media ecosystems. An interesting turn yesterday on Fox News as a number of prominent anchors came out publicly and said, we got the vaccine, you should go get it too. Maybe an important step in telling that audience that the vaccines are safe and good. So as you guys have pointed out, this is really becoming a crisis of the unvaccinated when we've seen these cases spike. What is left in the White House toolbox to get that message out? You can get it on just about every street corner. You've said every single day that it's safe and effective. We see the numbers that 99% of the cases in hospitals and deaths are among the unvaccinated. What is left for you all to do in that messaging?
Well, we're going to continue to try to use trusted voices. And again, the people who are most trusted are the people in your community, your friends, your neighbors. So we're continuing to make sure that we get resources all across the country into communities. And whether that's mobile vans or making the vaccine available in pharmacies in a walk-up where you can walk up to your local pharmacy and get it and talk to your local pharmacist who you have a relationship with and who you trust. So that's one way. We're also going to keep doing creative things. Like I would note we had Olivia Rodrigo to the White House last week to use the power of her social media platforms, which reach an enormous number of young people. And what we see is that young people from 18 to 25 are one of the groups in this country who are have been getting the vaccine, I should say, at a slower rate. So we're going to continue to use every tool available to us to make sure that we are talking about the safety, the efficacy of this vaccine, and we're going to make sure that we're encouraging others who might reach that universe of people who, as you say, are not necessarily going to tune in to what the White House is doing, or if we're not necessarily going to tune in to President Biden on this. We're going to make sure that they're out there spreading good information too.